Hi, I'm Brad. I'm representing Ernst & Young today.
I'm Lauren, and I'm representing the National Institute of Standards and Technology.
I'm Joe, and I am representing Reed Smith.
Does your company have a written ethical code of conduct that all employees are aware of? If so, where can you access it and how is it implemented?
Great question. So Ernst & Young actually does have a written code of conduct. All employees are actually trained during a seminar process. So how that works is all firms of Ernst & Young around the country will meet up in New York City, and there'll be a big seminar there. That's the second week they're hired. And then after that, the public may access the code of conduct through the company website, and employees may access it either through the company website or each partner is actually responsible for its team's code of conduct ethics, rather. So if an employee has a problem, they can go to the partner, and the partner is supposed to be able to hook the employee up with a copy of the code of conduct.
At NIST, there's also a written ethics policy, which is made known to all of the employees. It's available on the Department of Commerce's website, and there's also annual mandatory ethics training for all employees.
So for Reed Smith, the answer is also yes. We have a company intranet system called RSpace that all the employees have access to, and it has all the key documents, including the ethical code of conduct. And it's given to all employees when they're first hired, and they have to read through it and sign it. The employees are able to log on to the website at any time and look at the documents. They don't distribute any physical copies to the employees, but once again, they can just look at it on RSpace.
Do the employees of your company undergo training to help better their ethical practices and the company as a whole?
So great question. Once again, Ernst & Young actually does go through training on a two-tier basis. So the first basis is after you get hired. The second week is going to be that seminar where everyone meets in New York City. And then after that, you'll have a bi-yearly test online where any of your ethics or code of conduct, personal code of conduct rather, is actually tested. So for example, they'll give you maybe an unethical or ethical scenario, and you'll have to work your way through it at the end, making a decision. And then unless you pass the test, you can't move on, obviously. So you are required to pass the test. Another asset that Ernst & Young personally did this year, they actually brought in the previous CFO of Enron, and his name is Andy Fastow. And he just talked about some of the decision making that he went through in his mind and why it was wrong and how he's going about fixing that now.
At NIST, ethics training is taken very seriously because it is a federal government entity. As I said, every year there is a mandatory ethics briefing, and for certain career paths within NIST, there is also additional ethics training that is required.
So yes, also at Reed Smith, they have something known as Reed Smith University where they do most of their training. The employees, they get training on many subjects, not just ethics, but there are many for those as well. And the training is often given through e-learnings, which they'll get an email and it says you have to do this e-learning, and it'll just be like a web-based presentation.
Through your interactions with company leaders and executives in your organization, have you been exposed to and participated in admirable ethical practices?
Great question. So Ernst & Young, even from the top, the CEO, he actually does take it upon himself to make himself transparent and go down through all the floors and meet with all of the even junior auditors all the way up through the partners. So he is very transparent in this sense. He actually does illustrate to people in a way that he is ethical. So he does support the whistleblowing policy, for example, and he does hold seminars just a few times a year where he actually does go over the ethics policy and make sure that if anyone is uncomfortable that they do report it anonymously.
For NIST, decisions are being made every day in the government that are going to be very public and known. So our leadership has to be very cognizant of that everything that they do is going to be public, and nothing can be hidden or kept behind a curtain. So every decision has to be made with that in mind.
Okay, so they have monthly partner meetings at Reed Smith to help. One of the many topics is to remind them of the code of conduct within their organization. And also the senior risk manager will send out monthly emails that relate to company topics that employees should comply with. Another thing that they do is they send out annual surveys with regards to acting ethically, and the chief legal counsel will send them out to all the attorneys, and they ask them to comply with various legal policies.
Can you provide some examples of ways in which your company uses ethical selection procedures? For example, when they are hiring employees.
All right, so at Ernst & Young, actually, they do ask a lot of behavioral questions when they do hire employees, some of which that were noted. I know I got asked, for example, name a time when you have acted, or you could have acted unethically, but you chose not to do so, and then you have to explain why. And then another question would be, what are your thoughts on what went wrong at Enron? So as you can see, a new hire may be responsible to learn from past ethics mistakes of a different company, not just Ernst & Young.
NIST and the federal government as a whole has a very stringent process for hiring employees, and they ask a lot of questions about your past and have to make sure that you don't have a criminal history. And they also go as far as to ask what relatives do you have working in the federal government to prevent nepotism, because this used to be a really big issue in the federal government, was friends and family hiring people that they wanted to.
Okay, so when it comes to Reed Smith's selection procedures, we have one system that they value above everything else. It's the due diligence checklist, which helps to see if new hires will comply with the ethical standards of the company, as well as to check to make sure that new hires will fit in with the company's standards and practices. In addition, they also do very thorough background checks, and the clients are able to audit the firm as well, which helps to ensure that the company and the attorneys that they hired are acting ethically.
Does your company have a standardized system for how employees should report problems within the organization? Are they able to do so confidentially?
Great question. So Ernst & Young actually does have a few things in place for this. They do have a confidential service online that are offered to all EY employees, up from the CEO to the junior auditors. So if an employee ever feels uncomfortable for any reason, there's a portal that they may access. They can send a message to the company's HR department, and the only thing that will be exposed about the employee is the department they work in, and not the employee itself. So at least the company can pinpoint the section within the company that's having an issue, as opposed to singling out one person. They also have a whistleblowing policy in place. So EY, I found it interesting that they actually do promote seeking outside help if the ombudsman within the company actually doesn't do much about the issue. So they do, like I said, promote seeking outside help to get the problem fixed.
At NIST, there are many ways for employees to report something if they feel uncomfortable about it. They do One is the Inspector General hotline, which is an anonymous hotline where you can employees can call and report anything that they want. Another thing they can do is go directly to Congress and report something if they feel uncomfortable about it. Another asset that we have is actually a department of lawyers that you can go to if an employee is seeking more advice about something rather than just immediately reporting something that they feel uncomfortable about.
Okay, so Reed Smith has an open door policy when it comes to reporting problems. The culture they have established allows the employees to just walk in and talk to anyone if they feel that something is going wrong, and many of the employees feel comfortable doing that. If for some reason they prefer to do it anonymously, there is a whistleblower hotline that you can find on the RSpace page.
The following question is directed toward Ernst & Young. Within such an expansive firm, what do you feel is EY's greatest strength in managing ethics?
So I believe that EY's greatest strength in managing ethics is actually the ethics hotline. It is an impressive and confidential way to report unethical or illegal conduct observed in the workplace. So Ethics Point, an independent third party, receives reports and handles them from that point onward. So with a global network, Ernst & Young experiences ethical issues across the world, obviously, and making an internet hotline an efficient and appropriate system that complies with EY's ethical code is something that they definitely pride themselves on.
The following question is directed toward NIST. Because this is a government-run organization, are there higher ethical standards in which employees are held to?
I would say that yes, NIST employees are held to a higher standard because our employees are paid with taxpayer dollars. The employees need to have the public interest first, and that's the most important thing. Our ethical standards need to be very easy to implement also because they do cover such a broad range of employees doing multiple different jobs in all kinds of different sectors. A couple examples are our employees actually have a dollar amount of gifts that they can accept within the year, and so that's very specific.
The following question is directed toward Reed Smith. How do your organization's ethics policies and procedures impact your role as defense attorneys?
Okay, so Reed Smith takes in mostly just corporations and businesses, private businesses, as their clients, so they don't have to deal with any like murderers or anything. But in order to take on one of the businesses as a client, they have to go through a business intake process in which they check to see how the business's ethics and standards match with Reed Smith's. And if they do not match up, then they'll just refuse them as a client. They essentially look at it from a reputational standpoint.
Thank you so much for joining us.